All right. It's 11 o'clock. You know what time it is. It's time to get started with our Tridium talk on Niagara Data Service, which represents our first cloud service as part of the Niagara Cloud Suite. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. It is great to have you here. Of course, my name is Stephen Holicky, Director of Products here at Tridium, and we're excited. And the reason why is because it's just great to be here to be able to share the good news, and more specifically, just about Niagara Cloud and our first service that we're officially launching this week. So wherever you are in the world, we thank you for your business. We appreciate you for joining and taking the journey with us today as we review this new cloud offering. Cover a couple ground rules before we get started. We will have an opportunity for all the attendees to be able to post some questions, and we will address them at the end of this presentation. So as I'm moving along, if something comes to the top of your mind and you want to ensure it gets answered by the end of the presentation, just feel free to drop it in the chat. We've got a couple people lined up to support with answering those questions offline, and of course, we'll address some of them live as well. So I am very thankful to have Craig Gemmell, who is one of the principal architects who designed the solution, on the call with me today, and Kevin Mamajek, with whom I'm sure you're familiar with. He's done a number of pro tip videos and a few Tridium talks as well. He's one of our lead sales engineers who will also be lined up to support me as we go through this presentation. So you might ask, well, what is the Niagara Cloud Suite? You might have heard about some whispers about this. You probably heard some other things from customers about something might be coming. You might have attended the summit this past year in Charlotte, and if you did, you heard a couple things about that. But we are now here at this pivotal moment where we're going to actually release this. So just to give you a quick overview of what the Niagara Cloud Suite represents: scalable cloud-based solution that provides secure remote building management services. It's all built on top of Tridium's model of open and extensible integration with devices, services, and applications. So it's all building on top of that framework that you know and love. And I think as we discuss some of the details about this service, it'll emerge that it is quite well aligned with the way that you understand the Niagara framework. And then when you start to use it, I think you'll see that it's in alignment with how you expect to use a cloud service within the Niagara framework. So you've heard us speak about some of the key tenets of the Niagara framework. If you've attended one of the Tridium talks, you've seen one of our feature slides, you know we like to group our features for every release in accordance with our core key tenets of the product. Those are visualization, interoperability, connectivity, cyber defense, deployment, and of course, certifications and compliance. And when we kind of think about what Niagara Cloud Suite, how it fits into that mold, does it cross the divide? Does it drive value in each of these areas? Well, it certainly does. We do believe this is a major Niagara platform evolution on account of a number of things. Now, first and foremost, the product has been so successful and deployed all over the globe on account of the data interoperability challenges that it has solved. Now, of course, we rely upon you and all of the amazing things you do with extending the framework, building applications on top of it that deliver a solution to a customer problem. And data interoperability was one thing that the framework kind of solved by default. Traditionally, you had disparate systems within a building that did not speak to each other. They were all kind of doing their own thing without having an input into what the other system was doing. And that's one thing that the Niagara framework really solved. It created an independent data layer by which you could aggregate and normalize data from disparate systems. And therein, of course, you can create as many applications as really you desire. So we solved that challenge on getting that disparate data normalized and aggregated into that independent data layer. But the second step, how do you get it out? And get it out in such a way that it meets the needs of your customers or perhaps a application that you're seeking to develop. And Niagara Data Service in particular is why we're here. The first service of the Niagara Cloud Suite really does that. And the reason why is because it's given you the capability to get Niagara data, more specifically trend records, out of the station and into the cloud. And it all goes along with tags and relations. So you're getting that essential metadata that's going along with those trend records. So it's fully contextualized and ready for consumption by analytics applications or really any application that's going to be leveraging artificial intelligence or machine learning algorithms at scale. Another major benefit of the service is that it's all been designed to deliver an API-first architecture. So we've heard plenty of discussions about what a modern BMS or BAS, whatever acronym you choose to use. What does that look like in the 21st century? We've grown accustomed to doing things in a certain way, but since really technological capabilities have evolved, the way we use products has changed. And so as a result of that market demand, we've been listening and we've implemented an API-first architecture through this service. I think that will really resonate with those folks that feel that has a prerequisite for a building automation and management system. Another one of the benefits is that you don't need an additional gateway to get this out of the site. We believe that Niagara is your gateway. For the most part, we feel that if that's in your building, you should be able to leverage that to get the data out of their building and into the cloud. So this is not a play to throw another piece of hardware onto a customer's network. No, if Niagara's in the building, folks, you can use this service. And another thing to note about this is that this is our first cloud service, and it's going to be sold as a subscription. And there's been plenty of discussions within our industry about rethinking how we purchase products and services that relate to the management of building automation system, installation, configuration, you name it. It's traditionally funded through capital expenditures. And shifting to a recurring revenue model or a product that offers a product based on a subscription provides end user customers with the ability to be able to shift some of those traditional capital expenditures to operational expenditures, which would give them some flexibility in their capital outlays and really how they're going to be managing their investments going forward. And another thing that this does is I believe it opens up some significant growth paths or partners that exist within our ecosystem. And more specifically, I'm thinking about analytics application developers. Folks, you're hearing it right from Tridium. If you've got an analytics application, you've been struggling with how to really be able to get quality metadata into your application along with trend records, just for example. Well then, hey, we've got a solution for you. And the best part about it, you don't need to lead with your own hardware. You can lead with Niagara. And if it's in the building, you've got an exceptional play. And that's one thing that we really want to really note here, because I believe to date, there's really been no easy way to do it. You can put your own gateway there, or you can use export tagging. And there's a number of other ways to kind of get it out. But the thing is, folks, is that it's not a scalable effort. And we've truly gone to significant lengths here with this product to make its adoption as easy as possible. So when you get started with this service, you're going to see that we really have made this as easy as possible for you to leverage. So when you walk away from this Tridium talk today, I think we want you to note a couple things. First and foremost is that this is a API-first architecture. It's going to enable easy connectivity to any third-party application out there. It has fully contextualized data for trend analysis. So it's going to support that data interoperability that you need. And in addition to that, we've also built a charting interface within the cloud that you can use just to give to, let's say, an energy manager. Let's say you don't want them logging into your Niagara instance or your building automation system. Well, perfect. This is a great opportunity for them because they can just log into our charting interface that I'll show off here in a few, and they can go about and trend whatever they'd like to see. And in addition to that, you also have the capability to extend this to your, let's say, your building technicians, your operators who are accustomed to using the Niagara web chart for trending histories. Well, perfect. You can use that as well with this service. So here's a couple of prerequisites to note. You can use Niagara Data Service on either a supervisor or a Jace. It's supported on version 4.10 and 4.12. So of course, those are supported versions. So we have a number of update builds that we have done to 4.10. The latest version is 4.10 U4. So that's the supported version. And then of course, 4.12 U1 would be the next one. It does require an active SMA for its use. So you're going to need an active SMA to use this service. So that means that if your SMA is going to expire, let's say in 6 months, you need to ensure that it's going to stay active for the next year. For example, if you're going to sign up to start using this service. Another thing to note, this initial release is available in the US only. We are making the necessary modifications to our legal contracts and on the other side, from a technological standpoint, to be able to support customers who operate within regions and countries outside of the US. We understand that this is something that I think is unique, really universally applicable, and we definitely want to get this out to as many customers as possible. So just to get kind of some demand rolling on this and get some soak time, this is going to be available in the US only. Since this is a subscription-based product, this represents a new way that you might have never really thought about purchasing Niagara products. And that's okay. But one thing that we want you to know is that we've preserved our existing go-to-market with this service. You're going to purchase this in the same way that you would any other product that you get from Tridium. Of course, the only difference is that now this is done as a subscription. So it's kind of similar to the way that you purchase SMAs. Of course, there's some slight nuances that we'll discuss and that we can address if you have any questions after the demo and presentation. But this kind of reviews just the way it works. You're going to be buying it just the same way that you would any standard product. And then the setup of it is really all going to be managed by the SI. This is not an end user play by Tridium, folks. We are going through the channel. So if you are a direct partner with us today, of course, and you're in the US, then this is something that you can get started to use. The only prerequisite is that to start reselling this service, you're going to have to sign an addendum to your existing reseller agreement. So if this is something that interests you, please contact your sales rep. You can also contact support@tridium.com, and we can get that addendum to you for review. And then as soon as you sign that, then you can start reselling Niagara Data Service. So here's a couple advantages just to let you know. It's just, we have made this as brutally simple to use for a number of reasons. I think we understand that our industry, for the most part, has been a little bit cautious about the cloud journey. So there's been plenty of customers out there that have been standing up virtualized machines in a data center somewhere, which from all perspectives, that's pretty much a cloud. But the thing is, providing a service that's accessible by our entire channel has been something that's kind of new. And you can do it today, right? I can use Abstract MQTT driver to export data from a Niagara instance. The thing is, though, that's not a scalable process. It's going to change from site to site. Even if I try to templatize it, I'm going to have to make some changes. But with this service, we have removed that obstacle. So it's an easy integration in Niagara, in the Niagara Cloud. It's going to automatically detect and send all the histories and the model data to the cloud. And I'll show you that. It's the setup and just the whole processing of that data, it all happens really kind of behind the scenes. And the whole point behind that is so you spend less time setting up the service and you can spend more time doing what you need to make more money. And of course, you're getting all that fully contextualized data that's going to be ready for consumption by as many third-party applications as you can think of. And it's going to take advantage of some of the functionality that we've built into the core product. The archiving capability introduced in 4.11 is, I think, one of the hallmarks of this, because if you've got your operators that love their web chart, perfect. Let's say, and more specifically, let's say that your IT department says, I don't want that relational database on my network anymore. But of course, the building operator, the technicians would say, hey, wait, that's where all of our histories are. Well, if this is you and you are experiencing that, we've got a solution for you. You can export all those histories to Niagara Cloud and you can pull them down when you need them. And the best part, the operator won't even know because it's that experience is at streamline. So I'm going to review some of these notable features before we actually dump into the demo. I think this is going to leverage some of the notes that I brought up early in the presentation. You've got these built-in APIs to support secure extraction of Niagara data. You've got one cloud storage location, which is going to allow for multiple third parties to be able to access this fully contextualized data. No need for gateways. You might ask, well, how am I controlling access to those third parties to that instance? Well, you do that all through our cloud management portal that I'll review here in a second. You're going to give each of those application developers a client ID and secret, and you can control the expiration of that. So that, for example, if you just wanted someone to try it out for 30 days, well, you can do that. And that's all available through the cloud management portal. And then this is going to address a huge problem, right? No need for additional gateways. We've heard this time and time again from building owners. I want to reduce the number of devices that are on my network. Great. And another thing this does is this is where it really is going to save time. We have predefined the JSON export and the payload so that you don't have to do it. And it's going to really ensure that it's scalable and it'll reduce the amount of errors that would naturally find its way into it. I'm going to say it one more time, folks. No need for that gateway. If you've got Niagara in your building, that is your gateway. Just more about that API architecture. I think when we talk about what is going to consume this, and of course, analytics applications come top of mind, but occupant mobile apps, machine learning applications, business intelligence tools, really any other third-party application that's serious about analyzing data at scale. Another key benefit is you're getting that fully contextualized data. And as I mentioned, for those folks that love to use Niagara Web Chart, well, you can still use it. And for the ones that aren't allowed to log in, you can use our charting interface available through the management portal. Now, another thing this is going to do is that we, Tridium, Honeywell, we don't own the data. We don't believe we own the data. The data is owned by the end user, the building owner. We respect that. And we understand this service, or really any cloud service, is going to be successful, especially one that leverages data at scale. You have to reinforce this. So Tridium does not own the end user's data. The end user does. We're just storing it for them and providing access. So you're getting that fully contextualized data, as I mentioned, and this is a really great quote because we've had a number of beta partners who've kind of gave Niagara Data Service a test drive, kicked the tires on it. And we've had a partner of ours who's developing an analytics application test it out. And this quote, I think, really hammers in what we've been speaking about today. And I'm going to touch on one in particular. Tridium has simplified the acquisition and normalization process, allowing us to seamlessly integrate our AI-based intelligence solution in a fraction of the time. And that time savings is not just for that analytics application developer, it's also for you, the SI, who's setting it up. So that cloud management portal that you've heard a couple times, that is going to be your centralized access point for all other cloud services that we build as part of the Niagara Cloud Suite. The Niagara Data Service component within the Niagara Cloud Management Portal is going to give you the ability to create some nice charts, as I'm showing right here. And another good thing is that you can actually create an end user profile for that energy manager role, for example, that wants to log in and do some trend analysis. There are a couple things about the cloud management portal is, well, you got the ability to control, of course, new users, and you can establish roles, which allows you to set the scope for their access. And another good thing is that if you've got a Niagara community profile, guess what? You can use those credentials to be able to log into the cloud management portal. We wanted to reduce the number of accounts that you have to manage. If you're like me, you're probably having to rotate your passwords pretty frequently with all the other accounts that you have in your personal life. We don't want to have to add more to the picture. We want to make this as simple, straightforward to consume as possible. So if you have a Niagara community account and hopefully your password hasn't expired, and if it has, of course, you need to get a new one. And then once you start signing up, you'll be able to leverage that login to use the service. So how do you use this thing? You've heard plenty of things showing up on a slide. You probably want to see the real stuff. Great. I want you to see it too. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to start with, let's say that you just want to see, well, what does the setup process look like? Great question. Really good question. What you're going to do, and of course, I'm logged in here through our web browser view. And this is always going to be a really great interface to use if you don't have the thick client installed. And, as we continue to release new core versions, we're going to continue to build out our HTML5 support. So if you haven't used the web views, give them a try. I think you're going to be delighted by some of the performance enhancements you're going to get. And also, it's kind of a nice interface. So you drag and drop the Cloud Link into your services container. And the best part about this is that it's just a couple clicks to get started. So you hit start registration, and then all behind the scenes, you get this RPK authenticator built. And then you'll also have all your channels that will get nested under this folder all on the fly. Now, of course, as soon as you get a successful registration and authentication, then you're going to have the ability to start seeing the data move. So in particular, you might ask, well, how do the tags and relations get out? Well, they get out through this model channel. And as soon as you've successfully registered and authenticated Niagara Cloud, that model export is going to go out. In addition to that, for histories, the same deal. So you have the capability within the histories channel in particular to be able to set up your own export policies. So just to kind of give you an insight into how it's set up just from an automatic standpoint, is that they're set up at 15-minute intervals. Now, of course, it's been set up like that just to kind of mirror or match the most common trend interval that we find. Now, that's entirely configurable. You can create your own export policy if you've got tighter intervals and you need them to get up to the cloud as soon as possible. Okay, well, you can do that. But just to make it easy, we've gone ahead and set up that automatic export policy so that histories start flowing the minute you get this thing registered. And that's one thing I said, folks, is that we've really tried to mash that easy button. And the whole point behind that is to get those folks that have been traditionally just, I don't want to say scared, or they just reticent to kind of make this cloud journey. Well, put your seatbelt on. Let's get flying into the clouds, folks. All right. So as I mentioned, one of the good things that you're going to get from this is if you have a customer that is just happy to use the Niagara web chart, great. Just have them continue to use that. So what it's going to look like, for example, let's say I just want to look at my return air temp and supply air temp for this air handling unit. Now I have about a week's worth of records stored on this instance. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to retrieve, let's say I want to pull back, give me the full month, for example, month to date. The good thing about this is that I'm pulling all these from the cloud. Now, as an operator, I would have no idea where this is stored. I just need to see the trends when I need to see them. Perfect. We believe that you should be able to do that. And so you're going to have the ability to be able to actually have your operators take part of this highly performant experience here so that they spend less time, for example, having the station to restart because they've got thousands of records stored in their local history database. Folks, you can export those to the cloud. You can keep that local history database as small as you need it to be so that you can ensure that, number one, you've got your records stored in a safe location in the event of a disaster. And then when you need them, you can get those trend records, and it doesn't need to take up space on, let's say, your server class machine if you're using a supervisor. All right, so how about that cloud management portal? You might want to see that, for example. Let's take a look at that. All right, so what I'll do is I'll log in here, and I'm going to show you just what it looks like just to, for example, just to be an SI. You know, how does that look like when I log in? All right, I'm going to grab this. My name is not Kevin. My name is Steven, but that's okay. You know who Kevin is. He's seated right here alongside me, supporting as he always does. So what we'll do is log into this cloud management portal. Give a refresh here, Niagara Cloud. All right, so when I log in, one thing you're going to see is you're going to get presented with a customer view. All right, so what this is supposed to be representative of, I'm an SI, Niagara Smart Buildings, and each of these represents essentially my customer. So for all part of this, we'll say that, okay, Pro Services is my customer. So what I'm going to do, if I want to look at the charting interface, well, I just click on Data Services here, and then you're just going to start seeing the history show up. So let's say I wanted to see the coil valve position. What I would do here is, of course, I would select that, and here's my trend. One of the good things that you're going to have about this is you have the ability to save a report. So say I'm going to save this report and say, this is for Steven. Thanks, Kevin. All right, lovely. All right. So one of the good things just to touch on before I move out of this and show you what it looks like, just to be kind of call it a customer, because I'm going to log in to show you what that looks like as well. Now, one thing that we've done is we've built out a usage metrics interface. Now, you'll understand why this is important as soon as we start to talk about how we're pricing this. So I'm just going to lightly touch on it before we get into the details, but this is going to be charged based upon the data throughputs or the data egress. And it's all going to be charged based on the gigabytes. And so this usage metrics UI is going to be essential for you to understand exactly where you are from a consumption standpoint. And as I mentioned, let's say that you have some analytics application developers that want to use this. What you do is you create a service account. Look at that Holicky key. I didn't do that. That was Kevin. But that's how I would give them, essentially, if you go into the details, you get your client ID and your client secret. Of course, those have to be encoded. And then they can be leveraged to start to access some of those APIs. So what I'll do is go back and I'm going to log in as myself. And I just to show you what it looks like just to be, what's it feel to be a customer in this thing. All right, I'll do that. Oops. And one of the good things that you're going to have here is, well, I got my Salesforce Authenticator. Of course, I'm doing that multi-factor authentication to ensure the security of my environment. All right, what I'll do here is I'll put my Niagara Cloud. Oops, I got a little redirect there. One more time. All right. Back in the Niagara Cloud. All right. So it's giving me a bunch of noise. So I'll tell you what, you saw what that management portal looks like right there. That all you're seeing right there, folks, is just a issue as relates to Salesforce. I'm also logged in. So you wouldn't see that as a customer just because, of course, you don't have those same level of account privileges that I do in Salesforce. But that's one thing that, of course, is only something that we've experienced here within Tridium. So what I'm going to do to show you here is what do the APIs look like? And then I'll show you just kind of an example of what they look like on a Grafana dashboard, for example. So what I'm going to do is one of the good things about that cloud management portal, if I log back in as Kevin Mamajek, you would see a customer ID. So in order to use this, you're going to need to get a bearer token. So I'm going to get that bearer token real quick so I can access this. Give it a shot. Authorize. And this is a server-side application, so you can start to leverage this just to be able to try, just what they look like. So here's an idea of what the response body looks like. And one thing you're going to need is, if I go back to my services here, I'm going to expand my cloud connection service. You're going to need the system GUID. So this is something you're always going to need to stash and keep at your disposal here. And the reason why is you're going to see here in this API, I am looking for the system GUID, right? Now, let's just say I don't know anything about this station. I'm just flying blind. I'm coming into this like fresh analytics application developer without really any understanding of the station. What do I do first? Well, you can use just the standard point name query, which is going to bring in absolutely everything in the station. So some of the stuff here at the top just represents some actual program objects and other things that we've leveraged. But once I get down to some of the other stuff, here we go, Tridium Station, there we go. Now we're going to actually get to some of the good stuff. Now you're seeing here, if you notice, these are all going to be components within my station. And they're all going to show up very similar to this, for example. So you've got your system GUID that's going to show up at the top. You've got, and that's your UUID for the station. And then the cloud ID is going to be that unique identifier for each of the components. So you get your point name and then all of the tag IDs and the values that are associated with it. So we have the Niagara Tag Dictionary installed as well as the Haystack Tag Dictionary. So one of the good things that you're going to get from this is that all of the Haystack tags, all of the Niagara tags are going to show up with this. And you might say, okay, so what's next? Like, so how do I find some more things? Well, remember, we've given you access to semantically enriched trend records. So one of the things that you'll need to know is that, well, I need to find something that has a history extension. How do I go about this? You've given me such an incredible amount of data here. What do I do with it? What's the next thing? Okay, great question. That's a great question. We've included a N:(history) tag. Now, that's a part of the Niagara Tag Dictionary. And you can use that just to find the records within your station that have a corresponding history record. Of course, in addition to that, you have all those Haystack implied tags, and then, of course, our Niagara implied tags as well, such as you can get your HS handle, you get the kind, your ID, whether it's an error, the current value, units, and a bunch of other really great pieces of information. So you saw that outside air temperature, you're getting the HS air, you get HS temp, HS sensor, which is all that kind of critical information that you're going to need to be able to understand exactly what that point is. So let me go to this tag names APIs. I'm going to try that one out. Of course, putting that customer ID in, I'm going to limit the size of the return. And just like always, I need that system GUID. So that's something you always want to keep readily available because you're going to need it. All right, so I'm going to put that in here. And then this is actually going to be a tag name. So it's not a point name. And then I'll get the N:(history. And then we'll see what returns. All right, so now what I'm getting is absolutely everything in the station that has a history extension. So you saw outside air temp being the first one. I'm getting outside air relative humidity as well. And just pay attention to some of these tags that you're getting here, folks. You're getting, as I mentioned, all of the implied tags that you'll get by installing the Haystack Smart Tag Dictionary. But in addition to that, you're also going to get your Niagara tags that are applied as a result of that tag dictionary. And then, of course, here's where the goodness comes in. You get that HS outside, HS air, HS humidity. Going on, cooling coil valve position. That's going to be my chilled water actuator. And of course, you're getting all the goodness that comes along with that as well. HS cool command, HS valve, HS stage. So let's say that you just wanted to see this coin cold valve position. Say you wanted, all right, give me trend records. That's what I want to see. Now that you've given me all these model tags, you've given me the full model. Let me see what it looks like to actually try out with our egress API. So this will be giving you your trend record. So I'm going to use the response from this. And the good thing about it is that you can take all this, you'll parse this out, you can just stash it in the table so that that can be called quite easily by your application. So let's give this a try. Of course, you're going to need that system GUID, like always, folks. And then I'm going to take the cloud ID, which is going to be the unique identifier for that coin cold valve position or that chilled water actuator. And do that. I don't want it to get no one. I just want to show you one. So let's just show the first of this month to where we are right now. Of course, it's the 26th. And we'll start from the first. All right, so I'll limit my record. Let's put it at 1,000. And then, of course, what you're seeing here is I have the ability to sort ascending. Of course, it's false, so it's going to be the ascending sort. And I have the ability to include the pre and post record, which is something that's probably going to be useful as you're leveraging like a charting interface, like a Grafana, for example. All right, so here's what I'm getting in this response body. Up at the top, you get your system GUID. I get a notification of my record limit. And then I get that pre-record and that post-record. Now, of course, those are going to be prior to the timestamps that I put at the initial, and then the subsequent ones. The post-record, you're going to get that next timestamp after that. And then you get all your history records. So on what I'm seeing here, I did specify from the first to the state. However, what I'm seeing is just the 15th. Now, the reason why is because that's when this station actually started to actually got onboarded to Niagara Cloud Suite. So you're always going to know what's my earliest record just by doing this, for example, as well. So that's another thing that you can use. I hope you're able to see all the bits and pieces of data that you can infer just by leveraging these APIs in kind of a straightforward manner. So I'm seeing now that the cooling cold valve position for my air handling unit was at 10%, or I hope minimum position, for good reason. Even though we're here in Virginia, it does get cold every once in a while. So you're seeing that at minimum position pretty much going forward. And, oh, there it is going to close. That's probably what it should be doing, right? It must have been a heat load in here. But another thing that you're getting here is, folks, I want you to pay attention to this, because this is really where you're getting some considerable value. You're getting an understanding of whether the point's in fault, whether it's been overridden by a operator. Is it okay? Has the trend been modified? That's another critical thing, because we know that we do provide the capability for customers to be able to modify trend records with, for example, let's say that a device went down for however long. And during those times, you're still recording actually history records. And you're going to show either values plus, minus, infinity, 0. Either way, they're going to be something that's not going to be useful. Probably create a bunch of issues for your application. Well, you can remove those via Niagara. And when you do, you'll see that trend modified equals true. So that's a good piece of information that you're going to get. And then, of course, trend flags hidden. You're getting as much information as we could possibly give you. So how all this gets used is, well, you can use, as I showed you, you can use our web chart. You can log in to the cloud management portal. You can visualize all of that through that charting interface. And then in addition, let's say you love Grafana. And let's say that you've taken a look at the demo that we've provided on the HTTP client driver, and it's something that's really difficult to adopt, either due to technical capabilities, or let's say you just don't have the time to set it up. Well, then perfect. Niagara Data Service is for you. This stuff is easy to configure, straightforward to set up, easy to consume. And when you get started with a Grafana, for example, I think you'll quickly understand really how easy it is to use. So what you're seeing here is just going to be some room temperatures. I also have humidity, and then, of course, some fan statuses. I mean, sky's the limit on this one. So if you have Grafana, let's say that you have a service that you sign up to for Grafana. I know Azure hosts one, but you got a couple other things you can use. These APIs have been constructed in such a straightforward manner that it should be as easy to consume as possible by these applications. All right, so here we go. Here's the pricing. 5 minutes left. So since this is our first service of the Niagara Cloud Suite, we're calling this some introductory pricing. Now, the reason why is because it's only available in the US. But I think when you take a look at this, it's pretty straightforward. So it's going to be an annual list price of $12,000. That's going to include 600 gigabytes for the entire year. So let's say that on month 11, you exceed that 600 gigabytes. Every gigabyte in excess of 600 will be charged at a list price of $20 per gig. So if you're that 0.3 multiplier, that's going to be $6 a gig for you. Now, the way this works is a subscription per instance. So if you have a supervisor in your building with a bunch of JASes, that's probably where the subscription should be, because it's probably already aggregating all those histories from those JASes. Now, just to give you kind of an overview, you're like, well, I really don't know how much or what the size is of my total history records. Well, I've given you an example here, and I think this represents more or less like a 50,000 square foot building. Probably going to have maybe 500 BABs or something like that, maybe 50 air handling units, 40 air handling units. Now, that's assuming that you're trending about 7 points per terminal unit and maybe about 20 per air handling unit. That's going to give you about 5,400 to 6,000 total history points. Now, that's going to represent about 2.5 gigs. And that's assuming that they're being trended at 15-minute intervals. So you might say, okay, well, so if I use this, for 10 days and I'm querying the entire database, I'm, doing it consistently, you can see exactly, how that usage will track over time. Now, of course, you have the ability to log into that management portal and look at that usage metrics that I showed off here previously. And that will give you kind of some insight into exactly what your usage is. To help our community and our customers kind of absorb this and really understand exactly what the impact their instance will have on this pricing, we're going to give you a sizing and usage estimator tool. And that should help you kind of guide on exactly what you're going to spend based on some usage patterns. So that should help with the understanding or the absorption of really how your usage, your prospective usage, will impact the cost of this product, the price you receive. So got a few minutes left. Definitely want to offer up the ability to give you some question and answer sessions. I know we're right at time here, but I think my colleagues have done a great job of addressing some of these. And what we'll do is we'll take a look at what we have for Q&A. All right. So what about EMEA? We will make an announcement about its availability, and within the next few months, it's just being launched in the US just on account so we can get some really good market validation. And then it gives us some time to address some of the logistical and legal concerns with deploying such a product in that region. As you know, they are tightly governed by GDPR regulations and other data co-location requirements within SOWs. So to avoid that, we're just trying to work through the particular details on that to ensure that we can roll it out as quickly as possible. I think if this is probably going to generate some questions after, and I see there's been a number of here that have been actually responded to. And as you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to your sales rep. And of course, you can reach out to Tridium directly as well. We have one question. Is there a way to have the service automatically curtail older histories to stay under the 600 gigabyte limit? So you can actually do that by selecting the histories that you want to send. So you don't have to use that auto export policy. You can send which ones that you want to, for example. And we have a records limit or a records count within that usage metrics interface that will give you an idea of exactly what your total records are. So that will give you, if you use that alongside our usage estimator tool, you should be able to figure out exactly what you're looking at from a data throughput standpoint. All right. So my COBs, yes, this is going to work on a JACE 8000. Won't work on a soft JACE. So it does work on a supervisor. And if that's what you're calling a soft JACE, it works on a JACE 8000 and a supervisor. So even if you don't have any JACEs on site, you just have a supervisor. Yeah, absolutely. This is a great use case for it. Great question. Is there a data retention policy limit? So for a data retention standpoint, you might ask, okay, say that your subscription lapses, because we are taking this as a subscription, and say that you've just failed to pay your bill a month after it was due. We're not going to delete it. We'll give you some flexibility in that regard. So you'll have the ability, let's say something happens, we will hold on to your data. We won't delete it the moment that you didn't pay a subscription. So at the moment we have a policy of 90 days, so 3 months. So that should give you some flexibility as you work through some of the purchasing. The 600, Michael, the 600 gigabyte per year, that's data throughputs per year. So start of year one, you get 600 gigabytes. So say that I signed up today. Through January 26th of 2024, I would have the ability to use 600 gigs. And say that you renewed. So that's another thing about this, is that it's going to auto renew. And the way that will work is we'll send you a notice 90 days in advance of the end of the subscription term date. So for example, if I was going to sign up today, in October of this year, you receive a notice saying, hey, we're going to auto renew. If you choose to not auto renew this, just reach out to let us know, and we'll end the subscription on the 25th, for example, of 2024. And so at that time, say you did renew, then at that next year, you'd have fresh 600 gigabytes that you can use. So the way it works is that you get 600 gigs per subscription term of data throughputs. Yes, the 600 gigabytes is traffic. It's not storage. We are not nickel and diming you guys for storage. We believe the value of this product is the data throughputs at the end of the day. All right. Satish Kumar, most of our third-party guys were asking dates to make use of analytics, produce some automated insights with recommendations. Apart from MQTT API, any other interfaces are there? So you have some other ways to get data out of the product. Or the Niagara instance, you can use our HTTP client driver. That's one way to get stuff out. But that does require some, I want to call it significant configuration, but you have to have a certain level of technical capabilities just to be able to really set that up with ease and then be able to do it at scale. This really is going to be the easiest way to get it out. So you can export via MQTT. You've got the ability to use our HTTP client driver. And then I think this is going to be probably your easiest way to get there. All right, Alan, how do you envision end user use of service for graphics and alarms? So if you are an operator, building technicians, let's say you like your web chart, let's say that the graphics, the alarms are all within the Niagara instance. You can still use our web chart and use the data that's been stored into the cloud, and you'll retrieve it upon demand. So the operator and user will have no idea that those records have all been pushed out to the cloud. So for those folks that love the graphics, they like the interface that's been built by you guys, perfect. They can still continue to use it. Is the data egress compressed? Yeah, it's all via JSON. Yep, so it's all going across the wire via JSON. And yes, that all counts towards the overall data consumption. Mustafa, that's a really good question. Mustafa would like to know, will the cloud replace on-premise workstations? I don't think they are. I think we're going to live in this hybrid world, or this hybrid environment, for the foreseeable future. I think there's going to be some semblance of cloud control that'll show up, and perhaps you'll see some more customers kind of shift that are ready to take that journey. But I think there are going to be plenty out there that have to keep it on-prem. Now, that might be due to jurisdictional or industrial regulations. It also might be due to the fact that they just don't have the talent on board to be able to do that in a secure and robust way. So I think it's going to be a slow burn. I really do. But the whole point behind this is making the adoption as easy as possible. So for those folks that are ready to make the journey, we've got a product that's available and ready for you. All right. We have, will there be a future release that will allow Niagara graphics and control to be built and used in the cloud? So that's a great question, anonymous attendee. We're actually working on some remote management and engineering tools that will be included as part of the overall Niagara Cloud Suite. Those are things that are under development at the moment. But yes, we do believe about, really, that's a problem you need to solve. I need remote access to the site, but it has to be secure, it has to be acceptable by the IT department's regulations or their requirements. And so one of the services that we'll be bringing to the market is going to actually help you remotely manage and engineer an Agric system from anywhere. And so that's going to be one that will allow you to do that. One thing to note is that we do have a number of user documentation that on Niagara Cloud that are available today at the Niagara Resource Center. Folks, you can all start to look at this now. So let's say that you've got, I want to know how to use the APIs. Well, perfect. We've got the API guide that you can use. We have the partner guide, the customer guide, the back-end guide. Of course, that's going to be for more of the ops folks. But that will give you a complete end-to-end overview of how to use the product, how to get started. So definitely encourage you to take a look at the documents that are hosted right there on the Niagara Resource Center. Appreciate Kevin pulling that up and showing that. And those will be available for you whenever you need them. All right, so we've got Ken asked, we've got customers looking to integrate his Niagara data into Salesforce for consumption. Would this be a good choice to connect Niagara to Salesforce? Well, you'd have to see exactly what that environment looks like, but for the most part, yeah, I mean, these APIs have been designed in as straightforward a manner as possible, so that should be able to be consumed by nearly any application out there. But yes, we can certainly talk at HR. All right. Mike Hobbs, appreciate the note about remote alarms. Yep, that's actually something that we're building into the roadmap. So you would imagine we've provided histories. The next thing is to provide alarms. So you'll get that same experience that we're going to deliver with alarms as well. All right, bandwidth limits in place. No, Aaron, no bandwidth limits. If you need the data, you need it. We're not going to stop you from using it. We've got that usage metrics API, or excuse me, have the usage metrics interface that's available through the Niagara Cloud Management Portal that you can use to take a look to see exactly what your consumption's at. All right, Harish, is there a publicly available demo or evaluation site where this is hosted? Yeah, great question. Currently, we are supporting beta trials all through our professional services team. So if this is something that you are interested in leveraging, you can actually reach out to them and they can actually give you the full white glove service. And then, of course, if you're an analytics application developer as well, this is something that has enticed you, perfect. Give us a shout, reach out to our professional services team, reach out to support at Tridium, reach out to your sales professional or your account rep. They'll be able to assist as well. All right, so I think we're almost about time here, unless there's any questions that come up here in the next 30 seconds. We'll take a bid our due to all of our lovely partners and customers on the call today. And we're here looking at a new year, and it's an exciting year for a number of reasons. I think we're coming out of the pandemic, and so we're all getting, I guess, used to this new world that's in a post-pandemic where we're probably going to be able to see each other face to face. So for all of the customers out there who'll be coming to the AHR event in Atlanta, stop by the Tridium booth. Come by and talk to us about some of your needs, about the problems you're experiencing. And then we can also give you an overview of what Niagara Data Service is looking like. All right, Rob, it's not available in Canada, available in the US. All right, so thank you everybody for your time today. Again, appreciate your business, appreciate your support, and we're looking forward to hearing from you, and let us know how we can help you take those next steps to the clouds.